Matthew, everyday audiophile, music lover, beer enthusiast. Now, before we get started, I have to open this. It is a bit of a sensitive subject today, at least what I believe to be a sensitive subject. So today, sometimes beer explodes on you when you open it. But as I was saying, this is the Real Ale Green Screen. Now, what makes this special is that Real Ale and a few other breweries in the area as well, they do what's called a rotator. So every time they brew it, or maybe every year that they brew it, they change the formula just a little bit to change the flavor profile in a direction that they want to take that beer. And despite the fact that this exploded on me, it's pretty good. Let's go ahead and pour this and do a much better job than we did last time. There we go. Okay. Today's topic is power conditioners. It's not every day that I get to talk about power conditioners, but it is something that is near and dear to my heart. Not in the sense that I think they make the biggest difference in a system. It is something that I hear, but it's because it's something that I deal with on a day-to-day basis. The power at my house is something that most people would consider dirty. There is a pretty significant DC offset. That is something that you can easily fix, but more of an issue is that the voltage is almost always 125 volts plus. 126, or edging on that 127 during a majority of the day. So this is something that I just get to deal with. It makes it really hard for me to choose a conditioner, especially when it's a big isolation transformer, because the regulation on those means that if you're not loading it enough, the voltage will actually increase even further on those outlets that you're using. So instead of 127 that you're getting in, it could be 130 to 133 out, which is past the 5% variance that you want from 120 volts and edging on that 10%. A lot of electronics don't like 132 volts. But okay, let's talk power conditioners. The two that I have are the one that I use currently. So this is the iFi Power Station. This is the one that has been in my system for the last year and a half, 2 years. And for what it is, I think it does a great job. But last week or two, I've been getting to use this. The Nordost QRT QB8 MkIII. That is a mouthful for sure. In addition, I've been using it with these two plug-in devices. The Q-Wave, if it focuses on that, and the Q-Sign. These are just devices that just plug right into your outlets, and they give you some additional benefits. I do want to talk about this. They did make a difference, but let's start with what I have right now. So, in my quest to find something that was affordable and something that had some kind of DC blocking, I ended up getting this iFi Power Station. And for what it is, it does a pretty good job. Now, the EL84 monoblocks that I have and the 12AU7 preamp, they are fairly sensitive to DC and just an unstable power in general. It just causes them to hum. I can hear it in the transformers. It's not an issue when I'm sitting back at my seat, but I can hear it through the speakers. And when it's really bad on some nights, when it was really bad, it just was too much to listen to music to. So when I picked up this power station, this fancy power strip, it did solve that issue enough where I could not hear it from the listening position. And for me, for the last year and a half, that's been good enough considering the cost of devices like these. That's really the end of the story with this. I don't think it changed anything in the bass response or how tight the music was or the scale of the music. Really, what this solved for me, the only thing that I needed it to do was DC, fixing or removing that DC offset. And for that, it performed beautifully. So, as I was kind of alluding to, for the last week or two, I got to try. God, this thing is heavy. I got to try this Nordost QB8. And I have to say, I was quite surprised. I did have their QB4 Mark I for about a year and a half. This must have been 8 years ago, 9 years ago. And I did enjoy it. Now, at only 4 outlets, it did leave me pretty limited on what I could do with my system. So I ended up selling it. But trying the QB8 here was a nice reminder of why I enjoyed it. And you know, it is really nicely built. There's a nice gauge wire, nice sockets on here. But let's talk about what I heard. So when I first plugged it in, I used it without anything. And I will be honest that by itself, I did not like it quite as much as my power station. And that purely comes down to the DC issues in my system. The iFi here has a built-in DC blocker, and for that, it is wonderful. Now, the Cubase does not have that. What it does have is this primary earth, or this star earth pattern where the earth is slightly off from everything out of this central socket. And for hum issues between your devices that are due to these grounding issues, this is genius, and this works really, really well. But it didn't solve the issues that I had in my systems. Luckily, we had these devices here. So when I plugged in both of these, and I'm just going to do it right now, these combined solved all of the issues that I had. So the hum that the hum that I got from this Cubase that was just not visible from the chair, but I could still hear it if I walked in front of the system, that went away entirely when I added these. And that was really nice to hear. From the listening position, it did actually feel like a drop in the noise floor. Even though I thought I couldn't hear it from the chair, I was realizing as I was switching back and forth between the Nordost and the iFi that this was making this whole system, not just the power strip, but including these, was making a much bigger difference than I initially thought. And it wasn't until I, switched back a few times that I began to realize what I was missing with the iFi power station. Not that it's bad, but the quality of the components, the star earth that they do with the sockets here, these two little plug-in harmonizers, whatever they're called, that is greater than the sum of the parts. It really transformed the system from something that is it's already really nice to listen to. Great dynamics, a great soundstage, everything that I could want in a system, but this took it to a level where even at quieter volumes, like let's say when I'm listening after the kids go to bed, it was still dynamic and punchy, and the bass was just tight. I don't know how to describe it other than the bass in my EL84s sounded much closer to the bass in a solid state. And I never thought I would be able to experience that. I knew that they were capable of it, or at least I wanted to believe they were capable of it, but this combination here showed me that it is indeed possible. So, yes, this did work, and I will probably end up getting one soon, for better or worse. It's not the cheapest thing around. I think the QB8 is $2,300, and then it's another $400 or so for each of these. So you're looking $3,000 all in for just this, and you need a power cable. The list could go on. You're probably wondering though, what are these? Kind of noisy, these little U-shaped things. I also got to try it with Nordost's sort cones, these little isolators. Now, I thought that these were a gimmick at first. I'm going to be completely honest. But when you pick it up, you really get a feel for what it is. It, if you look at the diagram, there is a bar that comes down. It sits on top of a ceramic or some kind of bearing, and that gives it the isolation properties. You can shake it and you can hear it. Now, on the underside of these bars here, there is an opening where this sits. So it basically, on the ground, it sits on 4 of these. And this is what provides the isolation. I really didn't think it was going to matter. I'm going to set this down. I really didn't think it was going to matter adding these 4 isolation feet, but I was wrong. And I want to add a little bit of context here. Using the sort cones without these Q sine and Q wave, I don't think that made much of a difference. But when I was using those in addition to these must be very sensitive vibrations, because when they were isolated using the sort cones, their effect seemed magnified. I didn't try them one or the other. I always tried both of them, but these plus the sort cones worked wonderfully. And what I noticed at that point was just an increased resolution in the low end. The mids and the highs didn't really change for me much. They were still lovely to listen to, still great separation. It really was in the mids and the lows and just the attack and decay and the transients that I noticed switching between the two. Something that really transformed my EL84 into that solid state-esque sound while still maintaining the sweetness and just the lovely tone that I attribute the EL84 for. So I want to sum this up. I have really bad power at the house. The i5 power station does a great job for what it is, right? It blocks the DC. But the combination of the QB8 and these two, the Q sine and the Q wave, in addition to the feet, gave me something that was truly magical to listen to. My wife will be the first to tell you that usually I'm downstairs during the day in my office taking my meetings from there, but I spent as much time as I could up here just listening to music because it was just entrancing. It was just, I could not get enough of the system. And I'm going to be sad to give these back. I'm going to have to save up for them and potentially get them. Not potentially. It's definitely, I'm going to have to be getting them. But yeah, that's my review of them. They're wonderful. They are a tad on the pricey side, I'm going to admit. Definitely pricier than my i5 power strip here. But if you're looking to get it, definitely get it in addition to these. Especially if you have some kind of DC noise issue, that is where this was the biggest benefit. And if you want to go the extra mile, the sort feet do make a difference. I will vouch for them in this case, even though they themselves are also a little on the pricey side. That's just the name of the game when you get Nordost, but you do get quality. And I'm going to miss it being in my system. But until then, I will talk with y'all later. See ya.